the city, and obviously making sure that those who use the beach most often make sure that their voices are heard. So to ensure that the consultation is well advertised and well and well responded to by, as I say, those people who most use our beach. But we also have to remember that we have many visitors to the city as well. So as Councillor Hunt has mentioned, ensuring that we keep up our patrols and our cleanliness of those beaches is really important. And I know what a great job our teams do on that. So I look forward to the consultation, and it will be interesting to see what comes out of it.
Thanks, Matt. Anyone else? No. In that case, members, are we happy to approve this to go out to consultation? We do. You have your approval, Mark. Thank you very much. 5 on the agenda today is the update on enforcement of waste management policy. Dave, over to you.
Thank you, Leader. The purpose of this report today is to update the Cabinet on the progress of the enforcement of the updated waste management policy. This is particularly with regards to flat-fronted properties and properties with limited storage for bins. In July 2023, the administration approved changes to the waste collection policy to reflect a number of changes to the service. This report focuses on the streamlining of the process for taking action against bins left out on the pavement on non-collection days. The current policy is that all bins should be stored off the highway on non-collection days. This is to ensure pavements are clear from obstruction and ensures that residents can pass freely and safely. Where residents cannot easily store bins off the highway, they can place up to 3 standard size bin bags out for collection on a weekly basis and present recycling in boxes or stackable boxes. As you will know, particularly in flat-fronted areas, there are a large number of bins being left out on the highway on non-collection days, and this does cause an obstruction to some of our most vulnerable residents, particularly parents with children in prams, people with visual impairments and those needing to use wheelchairs or mobility aids. The policy introduced a more streamlined process for the removal of bins being left on the highway, and that is a 2-stage process. The first stage is the road is audited on a non-collection day, doors knocked and letters are dropped advising residents of what they need to do and the consequence of leaving their bins out. And this is then followed up at a later date, usually a fortnight later, where action can be taken. And this could be removal of a refuse bin or swapping recycling bins for alternative provisions like the stackables collections. At all these stages, this is also communicated to residents either in person or via a letter. Since the 1st of January 24, the team has received 124 reports of bins on the streets from residents. And from the same date, the team has started work with the roads where we have had the most complaints and issues. To date, we've completed a number of actions, which is issuing warning letters to 553 residents and either removing or swapping bins out to 229 residents. In terms of where we have taken action, we have revisited to ensure compliance continues, and largely roads have remained clear, and we have taken necessary steps to act on any continuing issues in those particular roads. In terms of enforcement, overall the main enforcement action we've taken is to remove refuse bins and swap out recycling bins. However, we are able to take a more formal approach where this doesn't resolve, where the issue isn't resolved by removing the bins under Section 46A of the Environmental Protection Act. In terms of next steps, we will continue to work across the city's flat-fronted roads, educating and removing bins as necessary. And there's also some further communication due to go out in the winter edition of Flagship, kind of further reminding residents of their obligations. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Much appreciated. Councillor Ashmore.
Yeah, thanks, Leader, and thanks, Dave, for bringing the report there. I think it's important it came here, obviously, to stuff we approved back in July 2023 as part of a wider effort on, getting our streets cleaner and also with making them more accessible for the people you've listed there, people with disabilities, people with buggies, children, etc. And also, to make sure that the rubbish is correctly stored, to stop it going all over the place. So, yeah, it's good to see what the effect that the policies we've approved have brought in, and it's good to see a list of the roads and what's happened, and also the fact that the resident engagement is high on this. So, because a lot of residents didn't know they could have a smaller recycling bin that they could carry through their house rather than have to wheel something that they might not have been practical for them, or they might not have been able to do. And obviously, this is part of a variety of work we've been trying to do for our streets here. Other things like we're trying to do on street cleaning, things like fly tipping, includes like extra patrols by wardens. We've got mobile CCTV up in certain areas, and we've increased the fines for people that do that, because it's that they're the ones who should take the financial hit for that. But yes, this one is very, very good, and I know that so many people do contact us about this, so it's good that we've got an update that we can all see. And I know that as much as we'd like to get more done quickly, officer time and budget is limited. You haven't yet mastered by location officers, although I am trying to see what we can do on that. But yeah, this is a really good report, positive to show we're going in the right direction there. So thanks for bringing it here.
Thank you, Dave. Susie and then Kimberly.
I just wanted to highlight one of the points around enforcement. So first of all, thank you for the report. It's really good to see it written down, and the progress is obvious. I am obviously a councillor in a ward where this is a real issue, but I think we have to be pragmatic about how we challenge these things. And some people say to me, why don't you just fine people straight away? But I think the education first and then these stages of enforcement are really important. I was telling someone the other day that in my ward, about 30% of people move each year. And when new people come in, they don't necessarily put understanding all the bins and the recycling system as top of their things to do. So I think it's really important that we have opportunities for going in and appealing to people's best nature in order to rectify it themselves before we go on to the further stages, which I think are all very logical. When it happens, it is a massive transformation in the street scene. We know that. And Cabinet will know this, but there is one road in my ward which is flat-fronted, which has never had an issue of bins on the streets. And I believe strongly that's partly because of the pressure from other people that you don't put your bin on the street. And so when we can when we can change that culture in a particular road, I think we can go from strength to strength just to keep on top of it. So thank you, because I'm really acutely aware of the hard work and effort that officers have done to tackle this road by road. But I do believe we are seeing some real positive feedback. So thank you.
Thanks, Susie. Kimberly?
Thank you. No, I just want to firstly say thanks to Dave, Colette and the team, because this is something I tentatively started talking to them about right towards the end of the time that I was cabinet member, and Dave took it back on, and it just proves that we said we'd do it and we have done it. So I think that's a really good thing that we have consistently gone on and sorted this out. But we've also had the opportunity to speak to residents, make sure they're informed about what we need to do and what they need to do. But the fact that we've, as it says in 3.6, we've now got an additional 27 assisted collections, and that's for people who may not be able to take their bins in for whatever reason, due to a disability or some other reason. Because we've had that communication with them now, it now means that we are able to help them make their lives that bit easier. So it's the whole policy, I think, is fantastic. Because I was cabinet member for a brief time, people have contacted me about it, and I thought initially it might be angry emails. It hasn't been, actually, and pleasantly surprising, it hasn't been. And I will pick on a road, so sorry, Susie, but in Harrold Road, that's the road that the difference, you walk down there now and you don't have to jump over bins or bits flying down the road. The difference it has made, and I've had 2 residents who've contacted me, one via phone and one email, who said that they weren't so sure about the policy initially, but the fact that everyone is adhering to it and that the road looks so much tidier, neater. One of them said they felt that their property price had gone up as well because the street was much cleaner, which is always lovely for them. But it's the education side of things. I think that is totally the right way to go. Obviously, we're in the very early stages at the moment. We've done 22 roads. as it says in the report, there are 358 to go, but we are doing them. We're doing them in priority order. If there's a problem, always reach out to us. As Steve knows, and in our ward, we've got a lot of front-flatted houses, especially towards the south of our ward. So we are talking to them then, and as you can see, Methuen Road's on the list, and hopefully we'll have some more. But it does make a difference, and fantastic work to the team. And I will add as well, I've been just a big up to the bin crews as well, because where I've been at home recovering from surgery, I wouldn't normally see my bin crew. They have been absolutely fantastic. They know I've been poorly, and they've wheeled my bins back to my house while I've been poorly, so I don't have to drag them in and leave them on the street. So credit where credit's due. Thank you to the bin teams for working really hard, and thank you for the report. It's really good. Thanks.
Councillor Hunt.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Well, obviously I was at the scrutiny for 2 hours last, I can't remember, Friday. And the cross-party members, of course, they looked at this too on that day. I thought it was just to be the scoping document, but they decided to go into detail quite quickly, so for 2 hours, and they looked at this as well. Dave was there, along with Colette Hill, and you two are being summoned to the next meeting. So you'll have another opportunity. Who's going? Is it you and Dave? Right. So you'll be able to talk about this again. But we covered quite a lot of ground at the scrutiny, so I'm not sure what more else there will be to say. But again, this cross-party scrutiny generally welcomed this initiative. Is right. We talked about the contract being brought in-house, which meant that the communication between the lorries and the crew and the officers is improved straight away, so that the kind of things that Councillor Barrett's just described means that reports are coming back and things are happening, changes are happening, more quite detailed changes are happening. I wanted to also very much agree with Councillor Horton that education is always more resilient than punishment. Although I do believe in carrot and stick, as we've seen with the fly tipping and dog fouling and so on. But education has always got to be more resilient. So, slightly off at tangent, at the scrutiny committee, I suggested that we need to call in the student reps of the university and the university itself, and the PDPLA, the Landlords Association, to come and give some evidence to the committee about these sorts of changes and how they are improving the environment for our city. And let's remember that Portsmouth wishes to be a weekend destination break for people travelling from Europe and all over the world, because we know that those people who come to our country, they spend their money here too, and some of them love it so much that they want to stay here. Do you know what? And they come here and they stay here, and they pay their taxes, they behave lawfully, and do you know what? They add to our economy, they add to the well-being of our country, and I welcome them, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Passionate as always. Members, anyone else? Any more comments on this? No? Okay, in that case, thank you very much, Dave. Item 6 this afternoon, sorry, throat's gone funny. Item 6 this afternoon is the update on the transfer of Solent-let functions into the upper tier local authorities, which sounds rivetingly exciting, and I can assure those people who haven't been involved in this process that it isn't. But over to Paddy.
Thank you, Leader. In terms of some of the key points from the report, it's really just to say that the approach has changed significantly from when we previously took a report to Cabinet. At that point, it was envisaged that Solent Partners would be delivering most of the functions, but it's now, as the report says, they're now being delivered in-house by Portsmouth on behalf of the three authorities together. There is very positive joint working with Southampton and the Isle of Wight Council through the Solent Growth Partnership, and we're looking to work with neighbouring authorities. The recommendation around the delegations is to allow the leader of the council to fully engage in decision-making at the Solent Growth Partnership. As the report shows, work is now progressing across all areas of activity. Specifically in terms of paragraph 3.9 and the financial disaggregation, since the report was published, the MOU has been agreed in principle with the county, and it's currently being looked at by legal. It's hoped that this will all be brought to a close by the end of September.
Thanks, Paddy. Members, any comments? No. I think just in terms of the principle around the delegation, as you will know, we used to have the Solent Local Enterprise Partnership, and the council had an appointee to the SOLEP as a P director, political director, and therefore as a director of a company they had delegated powers to vote in favour of various different decisions on that board. But the Solent Growth Partnership doesn't have the same separate structure. It's the name we're giving to the cooperation between the three local authorities. So therefore we needed a new scheme of delegation effectively to enable the leader to have the same ability to make decisions on these issues that the former P director from Portsmouth on the Solent LEP would have done. So that's what we're effectively doing. Is that a fair reflection, Paddy? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Nobody got any comments on it? No. Okay. Can't say that's a massive surprise, but we'll now move on to item 7, which is the devolution deal for Portsmouth, Hampshire, and Solent, which might evoke slightly more interest. Paddy.
Thank you. So since this report was published, an expression of interest form has been submitted to MHCLG stating that we wish to work with government on a devolution deal. The same wording was used by all 4 upper tier local authorities, so that's Portsmouth, Southampton, Isle of Wight and Hampshire County Council, and there's likely to be an initial officer discussion with government officials next week. It's hoped that the EOI will enable government to want to work with us over the coming months to work and see whether we can achieve a devolution deal that works for Portsmouth and our residents. It's worth noting that the government's policy on devolution is developing and is likely to emerge over the coming months. The recommendation, as shown, allows for the leader and the chief executive to engage with government and our neighbouring councils to take forward the devolution discussions.
Thanks, Paddy. Members? Councillor Hunt?
Well, we have to be involved in this, whether we like it or not, quite frankly, because if we decided to say, well, you know, I remember when I first became involved in the council, you know, Portsmouth had just become independent, you know, that was a big, we broke away from Hampshire, and now it's kind of going back the other way, not in the same way. But, you know, we could say, no, we're not doing it, we're going to just let everybody else get on with it, and then we become a little small Portsmouth, not that Portsmouth will ever be small, always punches above its weight, but we could just be Portsmouth, isolated from what everybody else is thinking about, what everybody else is doing. So we've got to at least be in there, in the room, having a look at what's going on, and then, you know, presumably one day we'll come to a decision what's good for Portsmouth in the future, but it's probably a very, very long way away, probably be under another government, if you ask me, perhaps, but we'll wait and see. We've been talking about this for so long, and it's been waxing and waning throughout, but we'll see what happens. We'll see if there's any money about. We'll see if there's any improvements to be made for people's quality of life here. It's going to be a very interesting ride.
Matt?
Thank you. And as Councillor Hunt said, this has been going on for a very, very long time.
Waxing and waning. It's a good saying, that.
And it's something that I said it in full council when we were first discussing this, that the unfortunate thing with a lot of these devolution in the past, the things that have been done up till that point was very much crumbs from the table. We are getting more encouraging signs from this current government that it might be a bit more than crumbs to the table, and indeed they are talking about devolution by default, and also that it's much more, well, they're talking about it being more bottom up and saying what local communities want from the government rather than the government saying, well, this is what you're going to get, which is encouraging. They still do appear to have a 2-tier system, that they're clinging on to this, the discredited mayoral model, which seems to me to be nothing more than an opportunity for bigwigs in the Conservative and Labour Party to be able to become big names, but actually have almost no power, but pretend they do. When you hear about mayors, metro mayors, etc. Well, when you actually look what they do, they sit there, get paid a shed load of cash, and actually they do very little. They have a few strategic responsibilities, but actually the fundamental running of things in their communities is done by the local councils that are part of those authorities. And we have been consistently being against the mayoral system in Hampshire, and we think that most of our colleagues across all the authorities are, though there are some exceptions who think that putting this city at risk of being run by someone from Hampshire or Southampton is a good thing. I don't like presidential styles of government, and indeed, from everything we hear from the Labour Party nationally, from their local government cohort, that's the way they feel as well. So I would hope that the government will drop their ideas of two-tier, that you only get stuff to the full extent if you have a mayor or not. But at the same time, it is encouraging to hear that it's more of a bottom-up way of doing things in the future. As Councillor Hunt says, we have to be involved in this conversation. We have to put our case, and let's be quite honest. If a local authority doesn't agree with a deal that's given or a structure that's given, then it doesn't happen. It has to be with the agreement of all the authorities involved, and therefore we in Portsmouth can make sure that we are not left on our own, that we are indeed part of something that actually works for Portsmouth, and indeed means that we can work better with our counterparts in our local area, but only if it's done in the right way. So I appreciate this report, and let's see what happens. It might take a bit longer, or it might not, but we don't need to rush into anything that's going to give us something that doesn't work for the people of the city.
Thank you, Matt. Anyone else? No. So I've been quite clear all the way through that Portsmouth's position has always been that we would prefer a Solent deal because that's the functional economic area in which we sit. The recent expression of interest is merely that. It's pretty much the equivalent of waving at the government, come and have a conversation with us. That's all we're asking them to do. And where it goes from there, we'll see. I think it's really important that if we do end up pursuing a Solent geography, that we do so in a joined up way in terms of conversation with Hampshire, because our near neighbours, the other side of the Solent geography border, are still our near neighbours. They are places where people go to work and from where people come to work in Portsmouth. And they are certainly places that we all enjoy and go to on a regular basis, and things like tourism and destination and some of the industrial clusters that we have in common. We don't want to be doing anything that's going to deliberately cause detriment to other local authorities who are our neighbours. So that's why it's really important that we have joined up conversations at this point to see where they might go. But I've been absolutely clear throughout the process that unless I can stand up in this council chamber and say that the reason we would work on a larger geography than Solent is because it's a better outcome for the people of Portsmouth, then I won't be standing up and saying anything. And I doubt if any other council leader will want to do that either. So we've got, as you say, a very long way to go, a lot of discussions to be had, but it is welcome and positive that we do have a leader of the county council who is finally willing to sit down around a table and have grown-up conversations where we don't necessarily need to agree with each other, but we do need to treat each other in an equal and respectful way, and that is happening, and that is to be welcomed, and I thank Councillor Adams King for that. And also, as we do with Solent Growth Partnership, I want to put on record my great appreciation for Lorna, the leader of Southampton, and Phil, the leader of the Isle of Wight, for the very collegiate approach with which we've approached the post-LEP arrangements, which have ended up with Solent Growth Partnership, and for their equal collaboration and support as we will move into the devolution discussions. That's going to be very important. Happy with that, members? Anything else? No? Okay, thank you very much indeed. And I don't think there is anything else on the agenda today, so that brings the meeting to a close at 2:35.